and welcome to Uprising 144K. I'm Hydrogen Man. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about my experiences with the 2016 and the 2018 Lourdes. This is the Lourdes 2016 model. This is the 2018 Lourdes HydroFix. Let's talk about some of the differences here. The first thing I want to start out by saying is that I actually have a lot of respect for the old Lourdes. What the Koreans did here was super innovative for its time. Not electrolyzing the water, having the separate chambers where you have the dual chamber technology or the separate chamber technology where you put one type of water in here and one type of water in the pitcher. It was really innovative, but just as the Japanese do, they took this wonderful idea and then they perfected it. And that's just what they do, and they really have made something that is really quite impressive. Now that I've been spending more time with it, I'm actually starting to see why they did the things they did and the things that they changed, and I'm actually rather impressed. So I'm gonna share some of this stuff with you guys. I got a really big list here today, so let's go ahead and get started. First, let's start out with the noise. This machine actually was always a little noisy. It would make little ticking sounds and little stuff, and I didn't really concern myself with it because it worked great and made the great hydrogen water. It was never really of a concern. But once I got this machine and I started using it, this thing is like ultra quiet. The HydroFix was like the Lexus of hydrogen machines, just very smooth, very quiet. Now let's go ahead and show you how they start. So the old machine, you'd have to hit it once, twice, and then 3 times to go to the 30-minute mode to make what this would give you the most amount of hydrogen that it will give you is on the 30-minute mode. And it would make between the 0.8 and 1.2 ppm of hydrogen water in this unit. This unit, the Japanese are like, why do we want to mess with anything other than full hydrogen, full saturation? So instead of having to push it a bunch of times, you just push it once. And that was it. It goes straight to the 30-minute mode, and it's going to get full saturation. It'll probably get over 1.5 ppm. One of the other big differences between these two units is that this one took time to break in. That was always one of the nuisances of this machine, is that it just took a long time to break in. It seems like it would get better every week, but it would take like a month or so sometimes to really break in, depending on how much you were using it. With the new machine, they improved that. It breaks in within one usage. I think it's within the first 15 minutes, but let's just say it's within the first 30 minutes. It'll be broken in and then you're ready to go. So you don't have to wait for your hydrogen water for weeks and weeks to be at full potential. And that's something actually that was a really big difference. I really like that on the new model. All right, let's go ahead and talk now about the pitchers. They may look relatively similar, but they couldn't be more different actually. The new pitcher is highly improved. First of all, the material is of the highest grade. I mean, this is the stuff they use for baby bottles in Japan. This material is not as high a grade as this one. The strength of the new machine, of the pitcher, is also much stronger, much thicker, much more robust. But then they redesigned parts of it too. Check out the lid, for example. This one you twist off because it has a nice gasket, so it makes a really good seal to hold in the hydrogen better and get that full saturation. The old one, you just kind of lift it off. You'll notice that the hydrogen disc is attached on this one. See how it's attached, and you float it right there on the surface? But the new one, it's not attached to it, so you don't have to concern yourself with breaking it, because this one, I used to have to be really careful. You bump this thing into something, you snap this, and that's it. You're kind of done at that point, and that kind of sucks. This one, you're not going to run that risk. You have the hydrogen catcher, which is actually more efficient on this new model, and you're not having to worry about breaking it. You also have these little grooves on the pitcher, because this is how you line up the lid and then make that nice seal, which is also how you use the breathing mode, because it has a whole different lid for it that also screws on there, makes a super nice seal, and is designed to have the cannula and then the breathing headset, so you can breathe the hydrogen gas from the new one that you couldn't with the old one. So those are just some of the differences in that regard. All right, now the overall quality and the way these machines feel, there certainly is a difference. I feel much more quality in the materials and just the way that this feels. Just like I was saying, the pitcher, everything just feels a lot more solid on this unit as compared to the old unit. So they certainly improved on the quality. All right, now, even though it's only a 2-year upgrade, sometimes car manufacturers will like make a new model and all they've really done is like change the headlights, and it's really the same car. Well, in this regard, they actually made a huge evolutionary leap forward. A lot of times it's like that in the automotive world, where things really change dramatically. And that has certainly happened here, because with the older model, not the 2016, but the previous model, it was very similar to this 2016. They made some cosmetic changes. There were some minor changes. But in this model, it's a huge evolutionary leap forward in the hydrogen world and the technology that has to do with hydrogen. They changed so many things, and let's go into some more of those details, but they just had to redesign this whole machine, particularly because they want to add options like the breathing option, and then they added options like, look at this picture, like I was touching on the design. They made a thicker area here because it's actually designed to be able to put a filter in here. Let's say you've ever traveled with this machine and you don't have access to filtered water, you can actually put tap water in this pitcher, and you can actually put tap water in the reservoir, and then this will filter it, whereas the old model, you could not use tap water in the reservoir, you could not use tap water in the pitcher. You just couldn't do it. So that was a really nice little touch or big upgrades that they made on the new machine. All right, let's talk a little bit about the actual filters in these machines. So in this one, you had to twist the top off, remove it. And then this one is just so much easier. You just lift the lid. Now, if I pulled out the filter, you're gonna notice that this one's all wet. It's actually dripping water. I don't know if you guys can see that, but this one's always submerged in water. This one is not. You don't have to worry about this one dripping water. And they did that for a reason. So you can see the differences. This one has 4 times the amount of material as compared to this one. And it also has higher quality materials. This is a different type of DI filter. They're both DI filters, but this is called an H type. And this filter is integrated and literally a part of the machine. So it really was a completely different design. But they had to upgrade this filter because they wanted to have the ability to breathe in the hydrogen gas from this machine. And in order to do so, they had to redesign it, and they had to change the type of filter that was in it to make a higher grade and higher purity of hydrogen gas so that you could ultimately breathe it. In this machine, apparently, you shouldn't be breathing in the hydrogen gas that it makes. The water was good, it was safe, but you couldn't breathe in any hydrogen gas from it. This one, by upgrading the ability to be able to breathe in the hydrogen gas, it also inherently upgraded the quality of the hydrogen within the water also. So now you're getting full saturation, a cleaner 99.9% pure hydrogen, and then you have the ability to breathe in a really high quality also hydrogen gas, which is a really big deal because you know, a machine to breathe in hydrogen gas can be like $5,000, and a lot of those are still being made in China, and I have actually read some pretty bad things about those machines, even the expensive ones. This one, it's all made in Japan, and from everything that I'm reading, the hydrogen gas that you're gonna be breathing is actually top notch. This is what they're using in the clinics in Japan. So this is a really good standard at this point in regards to hydrogen machines. So let's go ahead and see what else there is. All right, so another thing is that the way that these filters are designed, there's still more differences. In the Japanese model, they actually upgraded some parts of the filter also so that there would be less buildup on the electrodes, which ultimately would make the machine more reliable, but would also keep the levels of hydrogen higher. A lot of the machines would not sustain high hydrogen levels as time went on, but this is designed to keep high hydrogen levels all the time. And so I really like that they thought about the reliability in the long term. That's something that a lot of companies just don't do when they're building a machine. So I really like that they did that, and that's a really big difference on this new machine. Okay, now let's talk about the 10-minute rest. This machine used to require 10 minutes of rest after you'd run it for 30 minutes. And it would become a little bit of a nuisance sometimes. It wasn't a huge deal, but as time went by, it became more of a problem for me. I used to have to set my stopwatch, and I'd have to wait 10 minutes before I could run the 30-minute mode again. Where on this machine, I can just run it over and over and over. It never needs to rest because it's built so robustly and designed to just be able to go, go, go. And I really like that because then I can just run the machine constantly and I don't have to set my stopwatch anymore. And the more I spend time with this and using the ability to be able to just make hydrogen water all the time, the more that I kind of fall in love with the way that they made this one in that regard. So that's just one of the nice little things that they changed here. Okay, going back to the reservoir and where the filters are located, this machine used, I believe, about 4 times the amount of water as this machine. If you notice, the filter was dripping wet because the filter sits in water, but that kills the life of the filter. So in the new machine, the Japanese realized that when they were re-engineering this, and they're like, look, we're gonna make the machine take less water. What that's gonna do is it's gonna keep the whole system cleaner, and the filter is actually going to last longer. So this filter actually costs a little bit more than this filter, but since it lasts longer, it ends up being about the same actually per cost, except you're getting a higher grade filter on this side that's going to last you ultimately longer, make a higher quality of hydrogen, and the fact that you can use like different TDS, that's another really important point about these two machines. In this one, you could use TDS water that was from 150 to 300, and that's total dissolved solids, okay? That's what TDS stands for. On the new machine, you can use 0 TDS water. That means you can use distilled water. For all you people out there who love distilled water like I do, you can put distilled water in this now, and you can go all the way up to 500 TDS on this machine. Again, just a broad range of water that you can use. You can use RO water in this. I used to make videos about what kind of water you could and could not use in this machine. You don't have to worry about it that much. This thing can take just about any water you want to throw at it. Just don't put salt water or ocean water in this thing, because you can't really put that in either one of these machines, and you really shouldn't. But beyond that, you can use just about any water in both these machines. Okay, let's go and see what else. All right, obviously the quality between the filters, I explained that already, and how this one keeps the electrodes cleaner. And let's just go into basically this machine is just newer technology. This is the latest in hydrogen technology, and it's made in Japan versus Korea. It really is a much higher quality, but it's just the latest in hydrogen technology, and you're getting, again, better quality of water, full saturation. It's a big deal. So that's some of the stuff I noticed. But the membranes too, this is important. Even though both of these are PEMSP technology, not all PEMSP technology is created equal, okay? This one has the highest grade membrane you can get. And the reason they did that was because they wanted to have the ability to do the citric acid cleaning in this. It's actually suggested to do it every month, where on the old unit, they used to tell you to do it every 3 to 6 months, depending on what kind of water you were using. Now the problem is this. On this machine, you can do that citric acid cleaning and it's no problem. It's not going to damage anything. On this machine, you have to be limited as far as how often you can do those cleanings, because otherwise you can cause damage to it. So this is a little more fragile. You just have to be a little more careful with it. So those are some of the differences in regards to that. And then of course, this one having the new filter, it protects that membrane. So that's something that's really nice that the Japanese thought of, that you're protecting the membrane, and the citric acid actually helps maintain this particular membrane. So that's another really cool thing. All right, let's go ahead and go now to, let's talk a little bit about that citric acid cleaning. This one had an ozone mode that you used to have to do every 2 days. And it was a little annoying, but you get used to that cleaning. But the problem is, when they were redesigning the HydroFix, the 2018 model, they found out that the ozone part of the machine was part of what's causing some reliability issues and even a strain on the machine. So they just did away with it. They said, instead of spending money on making an ozone mode in this machine, why don't we put that money towards actually getting a higher quality metal, which is why they came up with the pure grade titanium, super strong, and put a higher quality membrane, the best that they could get, and just improve all these other parts of the machine. So that way you don't even need to do ozone mode. And to be honest, I don't miss it at all, because I don't have to do cleanings every 2 days on this machine now. This requires 1 cleaning a month. So every month I do a citric acid cleaning that takes 10 minutes, and that's it. And then I can go for a whole other month without having to worry about it again. So I really like that. This ozone mode, the ozone mode was supposed to give you all these benefits, but the ozone that it made ultimately really wasn't as strong as I had hoped, and it really wasn't making the strong ozone. And there was a reason for that, because of the grade of plastic that it was using as far as a pitcher. And ultimately, if you really want an ozone machine, you should just buy one. They're really not that expensive. To integrate it into this apparently just didn't work. And so I learned that with time, and I actually think that this just works better. It's just simpler, and it's just better. So that was one of the things that I noticed spending some time with this machine. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about, I believe I mentioned that you can have a filter in here in the pitcher, so that's really nice. Again, if you're traveling, you got the filtered water that you can actually filter tap water with this pitcher. This one can't do it. All right, let's go ahead and go on to the torture testing that they did with these machines. This was really cool, okay? The Japanese were like, okay, we want to improve everything about this machine. let's put them to the test. And they actually stress test both of these machines. They were just torture testing them to see when they would break. They were literally trying to make them break so they could find every weakness within it and fix them. So this machine was lucky to even make a year when it was being torture tested. This machine, when they was going through the torture testing, it made the year just fine. And then it went 2 years, and then it went 3, and then it went 4, and then it went 5, then it went 6. By the time it hit 7 years, it still didn't break. And they're like, okay, you know what? That's way more than good enough. This thing is obviously really well built. They didn't find any flaws within their design. And so they just called it quits. And obviously this machine's gonna be much sturdier in that regard. So I really like that they did that and they tried to find every single flaw. I love the way the Japanese think when they're creating something. So that was really cool. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is standby mode. They both have standby mode, but one of my gripes, I probably talked about it in one of my other videos, is that this would go to standby mode, but if I lifted the pitcher, standby mode was shut off. Let's say I only drank a glass of water and I put the pitcher back on, but now I can't put it straight back onto standby mode. You could run it for 10 minutes again and it would go to standby mode, or sometimes I would wait 10 minutes before I could run it for 10 minutes. It was just a little bit of a nuisance sometimes, and I always wish that I could go right back onto standby mode. In this machine, they have that option. It allows you to go straight onto standby mode if you want. Obviously, you don't have to wait 10 minutes if you want to run it right away again. So that was a really nice upgrade that they did on the new unit. Okay, 10-minute quick mode. I really like this one. This machine obviously allows you to go ahead and put so much water, which is a lower level, run it for 10 minutes, and you get full saturation of hydrogen water. So let's just say you want 1 glass. You don't have to wait 30 minutes. You just put less water, and in 10 minutes, you got full saturation. The old unit did not have that option. You could run it for 10 minutes, but you wouldn't get full saturation of hydrogen water. So that was one of the nice upgrades to the new unit too. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's talk a little bit about the design. This design, you know, I really didn't care, right? I didn't care if the machine was hot pink. I just wanted it to have full hydrogen. That's what I wanted. But then after time you start thinking, okay, could it be a little prettier? Or I would have friends of mine commenting say, can I get this in a different color? And I was like, really? You guys care about this? They're like, of course, I want it to go with my kitchen and stuff. And so then I started looking at it a little bit and I started realizing, yeah, I mean, why would they make it red metallic? I mean, what is this gonna go with? I don't think I've ever seen any kitchens with red metallic trim. I just never did. So in that regard, I think this is actually really a prettier machine. It really goes ergonomically and just the colors and of course the quality of it. I just think this one certainly looks prettier. It wasn't really something that was that important to me, but it certainly seems to be important to a lot of people. So in that regard, I like the new design of the new machine. All right, let's go with the next one. Okay, the quality of hydrogen gas. As I said, with this machine, not only are you getting full saturation, which you did not get with this machine, but what I learned was that it's having to make a higher grade of hydrogen gas about the best as you can get because of the breathing mode in order for it to be safe for you to breathe. Now here's the thing. I didn't expect to have a lot of differences when I ordered the new model. I was curious, but I really thought that I was getting the kind of hydrogen that I wanted out of this machine. But I'll tell you something, after spending about a month with the new machine, I am noticing differences from this new hydrogen machine. And I really attributed it to the higher concentration of hydrogen within the water, the higher grade of hydrogen, and of course, the breathing part of this machine. So that's something that I think is really, really well worth the extra expense of the new machine, is that I'm really feeling the difference. And I mean, you have to realize that this is like medical grade equipment at this point. This is a machine that they use in clinics and you can have it in your house. So I think that's really, really great. And maybe that's part of the reason that I'm feeling the differences, just the higher grade of hydrogen that this machine is making. All right, obviously both of them are non-electrolyzed water. They both have the separate chamber or dual chamber technology. I guess I would call it more separate chamber because it's a separate chamber here where one water goes, and then obviously the pitcher where it has the other type of water. So they're both the same in that regard. So that's still the same. Okay, I would say that in the long run, I think the HydroFix is actually going to be more inexpensive. It's going to be cheaper, even though initially it's more expensive. But think about it like when you buy a knife. If you get a cheap knife made in China and you're cutting something and you know it loses its blade and it's not sharp anymore, or it chips or breaks or cracks, and then you got to keep replacing it. Or do you spend the money on a really good quality blade, high quality metal, or maybe like really high quality jewelry, and it just lasts forever? I mean, jewelry, they pass down generations of generations. I've seen them do that with some knives too in Japan, like the sushi chefs. they'll pass down the blade because it's of such high quality. I mean, you've seen the samurai swords the last hundreds of years. And this machine is that kind of machine where it's of just much higher quality. And I think it's worth it in the end. I actually think it's going to save you money in the end as far as the amount of time that it will last. And plus, if we're really doing it for our health, I think the higher grade of hydrogen in this is actually well worth it also. So that's something that I've noticed. Okay. I will say that this machine actually has some secret options. I won't go into them today, but you know what? Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, so that way you get the alerts, because I'm going to put out some new videos very soon talking about some of the secret options that this machine has. I'll just tell you that they're beauty options, so if you're wanting to look younger, this is something that you're going to want to see. It's really, really cool, but I won't touch on it today because this video is already going to be really long, so I'll share those with you guys later, all right? So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. All right, I already talked about how we did away with the ozone mode on this one. Not really something that was necessary. Well, what I will say is this one is made in Japan, and Japan is known for having the highest standards for quality control and even reliability of the things that they make. And so that's something that I learned about this machine. In fact, what I actually learned was the company who actually designed this machine went out and got all the top hydrogen machines they could in Japan because they wanted to make sure that this was going to be everything out there. And that was really, really great. I think that they took that step in order to say, hey, we want to make the best hydrogen machine in the world. We want to be able to have the ability to breathe in the hydrogen gas, make the best hydrogen water that is not electrolyzed, has the nano bubbles, just the highest standard, full saturation, build a filter within it here, greater ability to put any kind of water you want in here, and just the quality of it, the reliability of it, they went all out to make something that is like therapeutic grade, and I guess that's probably why they've chosen to use these in clinics. So that was, I think, really, really great. I'm just grateful we can get them in the US actually. So that's really cool. Okay, now I also want to talk about some of the difference in the pins. So let me actually show you. So on the old model, when you used to lift this pitcher up, it was shut off, and you see the pins here, and they're actually spring loaded. So if I were to push down, see, kind of hear it bouncing. And so it has little springs, and then of course you got the sponge here and the little area where the water, it's actually smaller on this one, right? Well, check this out. On the new machine, they redid it. Here, look what they did here. This was really innovative. They just removed the springs. They're like, why do we need these unnecessary parts? Let's just put a higher grade metal. This is like full grade titanium here, and they shaped it in such a way where you wouldn't need the spring. They also designed this area differently so that you wouldn't need the sponge. So then that's another part you're not going to have to replace. And then it's a larger area here also in the end. And watch what happens when I put the pitcher back on this one. It just goes right back on. So see, the machine just goes right back on. The old model, I would have to push the button again to get it going again. So that was another one of the really big differences between these two models that I've been noticing as I've been using it more and more. Okay, all right, well, I think that's actually about all the big differences between both the units. I can't think of much anything else other than the fact that in this unit, I've had some really interesting feedback from people that I know, and then just people emailing me saying the feelings and the results they're getting from this machine. And I gotta say, the results and the things that people are telling me from this one are, it's almost like everything's happening faster than it did with this machine. The results of this one were slower, and this one seems to be accelerated, whether it's the higher grade of hydrogen, whether it's the breathing of it. Do I really think that it's worth going with this machine for the price difference? Absolutely. After spending time with it, I wasn't sure at the very beginning. I mean, I liked everything that I was reading, and I was excited about the breathing option, especially for the price. But after spending time with it, this machine is definitely the one that I'm in love with at this point. I love what this did for hydrogen, but at this point, this is a huge evolutionary leap forward. I don't think there's really that much room for improvement, which is really a big deal to say something like that. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you liked the video, and that way I know that you guys liked it and appreciated the information that I gave you guys today. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time on the next video.